Live from the Allison B. Parker Studio at James Madison University, this is a special edition of Breeze TV, Election 2019.
Welcome to a special election edition of Breeze TV. We'll be live for the next hour, giving you updates on the most important races here in Virginia and from across the country. Our Breeze TV political analyst, Zach Hill, is here with me. And Zach, we already have an important result.
Well, you're right, we do. Looking at the 26th House District right now, Tony Wilt has won the election and he will be the 26th House of Delegates delegate. And he beat Brent Finnegan by a margin of 53.9% to 46.1%.
Thank you so much, Zach. As you can see, we have reporters all over the place tonight. We'll get to all of these reporters shortly, but first, let's go to our Peyton Kennedy, who's live at El Charo with the Tony Wilt campaign. Peyton?
All right, Paige, well, it is official over here. Tony Wilt has won his re-election as delegate for the 26th district. We had people cheering, clapping. We were monitoring the TV over here as it scrolled in at the bottom, but the results are in and people are shaking hands, get excited to talk to him. And Logan, we're going to throw it back to you.
Thanks, Peyton. Well, let's take a look at the 10th district, which is an extremely tight race right now. Republican Glenn Sturtevant is losing by just a few hundred votes to Democrat Ghazala Hashimi. In the 73rd district, the Democrats will keep the district with Ronnie Willett replacing a Democrat who is now running for Senate. In our backyard in the 26th district Senate race, Senator Obenshane is up 60-30 over Democrat April Moore, with 2/3 of precincts already reporting. And those are all your updates on some of the big races tonight. Let's head back to the Election Center with Zach Hill. Zach, I'm so interested to hear what our panel experts have to say about all these tight races.
Thank you, Logan. So let's take a look at the 66th district of the House, okay? That's Kurt Cox and Sheila Bynum Coleman. Mm-hmm. What do you think, let's start with you, Leah. What do you think that means for students, but overall, what do you think that means for the state of Virginia, that election?
I really do believe that election will show, I guess, just students what it means to really show up. And though I don't think schools ever want their students to be partisan, but you just want them to vote. And you want them to know what this vote means and what this will go. And so Kurt Cox is a JMU alum, and I think that means a lot to us as well, is what will he do for us as well? So in the General Assembly and the Senate seat as well, will he advocate for us? Will his policies really benefit not just any students, but ours as well?
All right, I think we're getting news now that we have Tony Wilt live for an interview out at El Charo. So we're going to cut to that speech right now with Peyton Kennedy. Peyton, what's going on?
That keeps our families working, that continues to strengthen our schools, helping our students in all forms of education, helping law enforcement, transportation. All societies successful on a good infrastructure, and we've got a good start with that on the I-81 bill this past year. We look forward to continuing to work on that. So many issues to work on. We've got some successes, but we'll continue to work hard. And again, I want to thank each and every one of the groups, the JMU Republicans, the EMU Republicans.
Awesome. A lot of great energy out there. So let's talk to Aaliyah. What this race in particular, what do you think that, what kind of partnerships are you guys hoping to build with Delegate Wilt?
I think we would love to see Delegate Wilt more on campus and really showing students what he really does, because I think right now the disconnected students don't see change in Richmond. They don't know what Richmond actually means for us, and they really think it means federally, that's where all the policies happen. But really, I think Delegate Wilt can really help us make that change and show students that state elections really matter, and his changes, what he can really push for our campus, actually really matter and show up. So I would love to start building more relationships with the college Republicans and Delegate Wilt, so we can have him show up to more events and really express, so what does he really want to change and what does he see, but how can we help him push that as well? Because students are the voices and students actually make change, and I don't think they really understand that we're the ones that drive that change. We just need to get in that room and talk to them. So I would love to start building that partnership and really bring him here and
definitely
starting those.
And so I want to talk to you, Jory, about, we'll go back to the 66th district. Mm-hmm. What do you think that means for the state? I mean,
it's interesting. Speaker Kirk Cox, is a JMU alum, and that district did not seem at all competitive. That was not on anyone's radars. And then we had the 2018 map redistricting, and that put all of a sudden that race into question. It kind of came down to how Sheila Bynum Coleman had this gun message where, you know, our daughter was, her daughter was shot, and the Kirk Cox famously, when the governor asked for a special session, didn't act on any gun legislation. So that was the push by her campaign. And it's interesting to see it by the numbers that the margins are a lot smaller than anticipated. That should have been a red, solid district as it was in the past. But seeing that change is significant, and it's something to talk about.
And now let's talk about that a little bit. You know, gerrymandering and redistricting was something that just recently happened, and that really affected his district.
Yes.
Up in Northern Virginia, over in Colonial Heights. So do you think that gerrymandering, obviously it's something that's common politically, but how do you think that affects elections like that, and how do you think it affects the state overall?
So actually, I'm from Colonial Heights, so that was my district. And what actually it shows is that even my community members, they did not know that was going on. No one's aware, no one's educated on these things unless you're in those rooms already. So it kind of speaks to the privilege of what if, because my mom actually found out from just looking online. You know, so what about those that really did not know what was going on or who they were voting for, that aren't able to be civically engaged? And who does that fall on? Is it for us to educate others, or is it for these legislators to really make room for them in those spaces and to really show that? So I think it just shows this has been going for a long time, but who's never making those decisions and who's getting educated on that?
Yeah, definitely. And now we're going to take it back out to Jordan at Madison Union right now live. Jordan, what's going on out there?
Well, right now, y'all, I am here still in the Madison Union Ballroom, and I'm here with the president of JMU College Democrats. I'm here with Miss Courtney Keeley. Courtney, thank you so much for also being here.
Oh, thank you.
So I guess before we talk a little bit about what tonight's event is, could you maybe talk about your job as maybe president for JMU College Democrats first, just a little bit?
Absolutely. My job is mainly to foster civic engagement within my party and anyone on the left side of the political spectrum, trying to create connections between all of us and see if we can mobilize and get what we want out there.
Sure. Now, as far as a night like this is concerned, there is so much push for more college students to vote. And I guess just a simple question is just why is it so important for college students, let alone JMU students, to go out and vote on a night like this?
Your vote is your voice in terms of our democracy. And when youth don't use it, you're not just like your opinions are kind of glossed over and not really heard in terms of policy implications and the things that actually change the way we operate as a state and even as a country. And even if people feel like elections don't necessarily impact them, there's so many people who maybe don't even have access to a vote who are being negatively impacted by policies that we have today. And if people have the power to change those policies, I think that they should do that.
All right. Well said. Thank you, Courtney, very much. And we'll send it right back to the Allison Parker studio.
Thanks so much, Jordan. Let's take a quick look at those two governor races. First, let's talk about Kentucky. Already 95% of those precincts have been reported, and it looks like it's a very close one. Andy Beshear topping Matt Bevin by just 49.5% over 48.6%. Now moving on to Mississippi's governor race, only 1% of those precincts have been reported still, but it's still looking in favor for Tate Reeves, who has 54.4% of the votes over 44.4% of the votes over Democrat Jim Hood. Results are coming in, and some of those races are too close to call. Stay with us for all of the latest results in just a few minutes.
This is Breeze TV's coverage of Election 2019.
Welcome back to Breeze TV. Let's get right to the House of Delegates 26th District. The district spans all of Harrisonburg, and our Zach Hill is here to call some more results. Zach? Actually, the reports are just coming in that our Caitlin Pym has an interview out in the field. Let's take to her. Caitlin?
Thanks, Paige. So this has been a tough night for you, but do you have any future plans for any upcoming elections or anything with races?
I mean, all of the issues that people are dealing with that I was talking about on this campaign are still issues. People are still dealing with affordable housing. They're dealing with stagnant wages and a climate that is falling apart. And we need to do something to address all of those issues. None of that changed because of the outcome of this election. And I will continue to advocate alongside those people who are dealing with these issues and fighting alongside them for affordable housing, for just wages, and for a livable planet for future generations. All of that is, none of that is changed because of the outcome of the election tonight.
So the results were all of the Harrisonburg precincts voted for you, and all of the Rockingham precincts voted for Wilt. Were these the results that you were expecting tonight?
The results in the county were, the turnout was much higher in the county than we had anticipated, and the turnout in some of the city precincts was lower than we had anticipated. So certainly that's disappointing, but I'm proud of the campaign that we ran. We worked really, really hard, and I don't regret a single door knocked. I don't regret a single phone call that we made for this campaign, fighting for the values that we believe in.
So do you have anything that you'd like to say to the people who have supported you through this campaign and your voters?
I'm extremely grateful to everyone who stepped up and supported this campaign. This has been a people-powered campaign from the very beginning. That's been the focus of this campaign, and we're going to continue to build on that in Harrisonburg and in Rockingham County. I'm a member of this community. I grew up here, and I will continue to engage with these issues at the local, state, and federal level. We are going to fight for a just economy and a livable planet for future generations, and that doesn't change because of the outcome of tonight's election.
Thank you so much for your time. Paige, back to you.
Thanks, Caitlin. Brent Finnegan definitely has a great attitude over where you're at, but right now more results are rolling in, and our Zach Hill's here to cover it. Zach?
Thank you, Paige. Now, we have a slew of results that have come in, so let's take it first from the 76th House District. And if we can take the graphic there, that one is going to be called in favor of Clint Jenkins, the Democrat challenged by Chris Jones. And we can call that as done now. Clint Jenkins has taken that seat. Now let's move over to the 94th House District. That's a flip right there, taking it away from David Yancey. That's the district that came out of the hat last election. That was a big one. And now let's take a look at some of the Senate seats. This 13th district in the Senate first. And that has been called in favor of John Bell, who took it with 54.2%, 45.8%. And now let's take it over to the 26th district of the Senate, which was recently called for Mark Obenshain, I believe, and that's with 2/3 of the results favoring Mark Obenshain. We will be live talking about some of these over on our panel shortly. But Paige, what's going on right now?
Yeah, Zach, we're definitely going to be covering those races and results as they roll in. But as of right now, our Logan Campbell is back in that newsroom, and let's head over to her to see what more she has found out. Logan?
Thanks, Paige. We're looking at the 10th district. It still is a really tight race, with Democrat incumbent Wendy Goditis still ahead by 2,000 votes over her Republican challenger. Back to you guys in the election studio.
Let's look at those governor races one last final time. As for the Kentucky race, it was pretty close last time we were looking. 99% of those precincts, again, have been reported. Andy Beshear still in the lead by 7,000 votes, so it's pretty close to call that he's going to take that cake over there. And for Mississippi, again, that open seat, a really tight race. Again, only 7% of those precincts have been reported, but Tate Reeves is topping Jim Hood continually. Zach is over there with our panel of experts again, and let's toss it back to him. Zach?
Paige. Now, let's talk to our panelists shortly about, what these election results coming in kind of mean for, for Democrats, for Republicans, for the state, and then for nationally looking forward, with the presidential election next year. A lot of people were looking at Virginia as, a swing state, as it could be like a determinant for 2020 and how people are going to come out and vote. Mm-hmm. What do you think, based off of the results that we have so far, that this means for 2020 going forward?
I think that It's going to be interesting seeing if we can truly have student outreach in 2020, if that's going to be a possible situation. I think a lot of factors beyond students' control are going to be actually at play for 2020. Nova, the expansion of Nova, Amazon HQ2, causing a lot of these, causing a mass of new people coming in. It's reported that a person going into a new house, like getting a new mortgage, are a lot of times younger, the 30-year-olds, and many of the times they're Democratic. They're caring about their future, they're caring about things like that. And so I overall think that Nova's going to pull Virginia into that, but it doesn't matter because a lot of times, you know, whoever's on the top of the ticket polls in different places. So one place that could poll really well in a swing state like Pennsylvania could do differently in Virginia. And so overall, it's going to be really interesting to seeing who at the top of the ticket, maybe they're too progressive, maybe they're too Democrat for a place like Virginia, and then Virginia gets cast into a swing state vote again. And then that is when I believe that students may be coming out for people like a Bernie Sanders, like an Elizabeth Warren, that like those progressive ideas are actually going to be the determining factor for Virginia as a whole.
Definitely. Do you have anything to add to
Yeah,
that?
and I'm really interested to see what we can do, like you're saying, to really engage students in that. So when I was a first year, and that was when we had the 2016 election. And so it wasn't really engraved in us to vote. I mean, we were told to vote, and actually the Center for Civic Engagement is new on campus. It's only 2 years old. And so I really want to see now moving forward that we've gotten really different outreach and different methods, taking people to the polls that's paid for by the university, and really these different outreach, what we can do to eliminate some barriers for students to be more engaged in 2020, or are students going to be more pushed back because of what the results they saw in 2016. And so I'm really interested to see, are these state elections going to motivate us more, or is it going to make us more polarized and make us say, okay, well, I'm not really going to go out, I'm not going to show up. And what are some barriers we still have on campus that every year you have to re-register when you move off campus? And we're always moving, we're always doing different things. Are there some things we need to reform here and really figure out ourselves?
And I believe we're actually getting word now that the 10th Senate District has been called, and that one is going to Galaza Hashmi.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you guys, you know, what do you think that this race means? It's clearly going to be an important one to Democrats, but what do you think this means for the state as a whole?
Well, this was a big targeted race for Democrats in this 2019, and it could be, you know, we haven't called it overall on whether Democrats take the Senate, but this seat right here could be that seat. It could be the 21 to 19. It could be the 22 to 18, and so this specific race could be the difference between gun control legislation, could be the difference between expansion of certain health care, and so that one race is super important.
And
Democrats
we're just getting word now that the Democrats have flipped the Senate.
Wow, okay.
That's big
That's
news.
big.
Big
That's
news
really
for
big
me.
news.
They have 20 seats already picked up. With the lieutenant governor, that makes 21.
The big question now is on the House of Delegates. We called it the freshman 15. The 15 delegates that, I know, great name. The 15 Democratic freshmen coming in, and they didn't expect so many people to win. And we were super close. Democrats were super close of winning the House of Delegates, but came a little bit short. Came so little as like 49 right now, and like maybe one person sometimes flips. But it's if that House goes to Democrats, so much is on the table. And we talked about complications for voter turnouts. We know that Democrats want to start eliminating the barriers for voters. We could talk about automatic voter registration. We could talk about
Same-day registration.
Same-day registration.
Like,
so many
things that happen and reformed.
And the state General Assembly is gonna decide that. So when you talk about 2020, it's really important that we start looking at what are Democrats in the future, especially on the first day of General Assembly, which is on Martin Luther King Day. Is that going to be something we're talking about, or is it going to be something else?
Yeah,
definitely.
And I'm interested to see now with you're saying that because there's more progressive thoughts and that, and it's more appealing to students. Does this change the way we look at state elections, and are we going to show up more in these different general elections? So I'm really interested to see what this is going to mean, and are we going to show up, and are we going to be more willing to have our voices heard? And maybe are there younger voices, so who are now in the House? Are they do they look like us? Now we have women, minorities, younger generations. Do we feel more capable to speak to them and really feel like we can relate to them on different levels? So I'm excited to see how that will go. And yeah, that's all.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, big news there with the Senate being flipped for Democrats. We're going to take it to Logan in our newsroom, Logan Campbell. Logan, what's going on now?
Thanks, Zach. Well, we are still taking a look at the 73rd District delegate race. It is still so close of a race with 96% of precincts have been reported. It still has not been called, but Castleberg is still losing by 2,000 votes. This is a really important race that the Democrats need to keep. Paige, back to you in the election studio.
All right, thank you guys again all so much for joining us. We're going to start wrapping it up here, but let's go over all of the races that we have right now. Zach, what's your opinion on all of them?
We're definitely going to be taking a look at every single race that has been called so far. So let's take it from the top if we can. The first race, I believe, was called for the 94th district of the House. We'll talk about David Yancey falling to Shelley Simmons. That's a big seat. It was flipped. 57.8%, 40.31%. That's a big flip for Democrats looking at the 94th, as that was the race that was called out of a hat. Coming up next, we're going to have another huge race, Chris Hurst taking a victory over Forrest Hitt, and that's a big one. Obviously, the personal ties here at James Madison University in the 12th district over in Blacksburg. That's a big one to look at. Moving forward, we're going to look at the 66th district, where Kurt Cox is currently leading over Sheila Bynum Coleman. That's another big one, as we said, that's the Speaker of the House, and he's currently leading 53.5%, 45.3%. And we're going to keep moving forward with the 76th district. Chris Jones falling to Clint Jenkins, as we called earlier. That's another big seat for Democrats to pick up. Moving it right along, we're going to take a look at the Kentucky governor, or the 10th House District. Wendy Goditis taking that over Randy Minshew currently, 90% of the precincts reporting. That's 53.1% to 46.9%. It's still pretty close, but I believe we might have actually, no, that one hasn't been called yet. So we're still following that one, but it's a very close race nonetheless. It could be another seat for Democrats to pick up. Let's jump over to the Kentucky governor's race. 99% of precincts reporting is down to the wire. I mean, 0.4%. That's huge. There's only 6,000 votes in between those two, Matt Bevin and Andy Bashar. That's huge. It's very close, and people need to look at that. Going over to the Mississippi governor's race, 9% of precincts in now. Tate Reeves taking the lead over Jim Hood, 52.8 to 46%. And as I'm hearing now, the Democrats have currently flipped a total of 3 seats in the House of Delegates. That's huge for Democrats. It's 37-34 right now is our tally. Obviously, we're going to be following this all night until everything is in. That's about a third of the races left in this total. And clearly, this was a big win for Tony Wilt, 26th House District. That was a very flippable district, but Tony Wilt did manage to take it over Brent Finnegan by nearly 9%. All right. Well,
thank you guys all so much for joining us in our political coverage tonight. It was a pleasure having our panel of experts, Zach Hill, Logan Campbell, and all of our reporters in the field, and of course you guys watching. It was all very fun. Thanks for tuning in.
This is Breeze TV's coverage of Election 2019.